Welcome to the show that explores the methods and strategies on rocking the financial side of your music business. With over 40 years combined experience, here are your hosts, Chris Webb and Dave Tampkin.
Welcome to Musicians Tip Jar, where we talk about musicians and money, where we vote yes on your success and are willing to rest our campaign on making your dreams a reality. I'm Chris Webb, joined by my co-host, who does better at whammies than Grammys, Dave Tampkin.
How could you even say that about me, Chris? That is so rude. Unbelievable. Damn. No whammies. Everybody, I just told Chris to put that in for the intro.
Oh, now it's a double whammy.
It's double whammy. And no Grammys.
Well, maybe your campaign needs some work. But today we discuss the campaigning and the process of submitting your music for the Grammys, as well as setting your ticket prices and building your catalog with our guest, the talented Megan Burtt. Our quote comes from Megan. She said, "If I don't force myself into creative deadlines, the creativity is not going to happen. And the creativity is what all the business rests on."
Yeah. How many dreams did you have about that quote?
Nightmares, you mean?
Yeah. She haunted me for the rest of the week. And then I sent you both a text about it with no response.
I was busy writing.
Yeah. Okay. So this week's nonprofit is from Madison, Wisconsin, madfolk.org, Madison's Folk Music Society. They do regular concert series featuring some of folk music's finest national touring acts. They do area festivals and special events, summer concerts, free summer concerts. They do summer singing with sing-alongs in the park. What better way to spend the afternoon, Chris, right? Go to Blue Mound State Park and sing along with everyone. They have a great newsletter and even better scholarship program for kids. So check it out at madfolk.org.
Megan Burtt is a notable singer-songwriter with a series of accomplishments in the music industry. She graduated from Boston Berklee College of Music in 2008 and has since established herself with a blend of Americana, roots, and pop influences. Her career highlights include winning prestigious awards like the Caraville New Folk, the Rocky Mountain Folk Festival, and the Westward Music Award. Besides her studio albums, Burtt has made significant live performances, including Red Rocks Amphitheater with the Colorado Symphony Orchestra. She toured extensively through the U.S. and Europe. She shared the stage with artists like Chris Isaak, Leanne Rimes, and Mark Cohen. Her involvement in music has also extended into her philanthropic efforts, notably performing in Pennsylvania's state maximum security prisons, which we don't actually even talk about in this interview. That I guess we'll have to save for another time.
Brought it up a little bit.
A little bit.
She got all locked up about it.
I keep setting them up, Dave. Have you ever wondered how people win Grammys or how it all works? Well, we jump right into that, as well as diversifying your income, educating your audiences on supporting you, and making sure that you show up for yourself and your goals. Let's go. As all this is finished, and at the end of your campaign, you mentioned one of the last things to add to your goals was to apply it for the Grammys. And I don't think a lot of people realize what that takes or what that means. Can you just summarize what and how much that costs?
Oh, this should be a whole other podcast. And I'm learning about it too. But the Grammys are kind of like the music version of a political campaign. And so what I can best garner, it's about $6,000 to do kind of like a Grammy campaign. I think that, major label artists, I'm sure, are spending a ton more on that. But essentially, when you're applying for first round voting, and then from first round voting is where the nominations come that we all see when they're up on the stage and they're like, and the nominees are, that's from the second round voting. So what people do in the first round voting is try to appeal to voting members, and to be a voting member of the Grammy, of the Recording Academy, you have to pay your dues and you have to be a working musician, and only people who participate in the creative process of making a record can be a voting member. So like your booking agent can't be a voting member in the Recording Academy of the Grammys unless your booking agent somehow got producer credit on a record. But theoretically, only musicians, composers, mix engineers, mastering engineers, the people who made the record are eligible to vote. It's a peer voting.
Yeah.
But I know that there's got to be some crazy stuff happening because, like, I'm sure the CEO at Warner is a producer on a record. Like,
Totally.
you know what I mean? There's got to be those kinds of things happening. I don't know, like the skinny really. And you can't ask for people to vote for you. There's really strict rules. I can't go to you as a voting member and say, please vote for me in the folk category. I have to say, for your consideration, my record is in first round voting.
Yeah.
For the Grammys. So, I think that like that $6,000 can go to some ads like in the Billboard magazine and ads around Grammy voting season, kind of like you would see ads for the presidential candidate,
Totally.
Vote for me. I can't say vote for me. I have to say for your consideration. It's a whole thing.
Megan, I know you tour quite a bit, and we learned a lot from how you budgeted and saw how much you needed for your second album from what you learned from your first album. With all these tours you've been doing, including maybe you can talk about the prison tours as well, how has that translated from making sure you're managing your money when you're about to go on the road to on the road and then planning the next tour?
I personally am just really scared of debt. I'm just scared of it. So I don't go into debt to tour. I have a lot of musician friends who do, because it's more important to them to like play the show that they want to play. And I commend them for that. I end up having to tour solo a lot because I'm constantly balancing the budget and what I can afford and how I can afford to be on the road. I will always play with a bandmate or six whenever I can. It's a totally a balancing act. I feel like my gigging life and the way that I present my music is like an elephant on a teeter-totter, because I go into debt to play with my band sometimes, but it's not like debt, like bottom line QuickBooks debt. It's just like I might have to go play 3 solo gigs so that I can afford to have my band for one gig that's important to me. And I'm constantly in my brain doing this balancing act between the cost analysis, benefit ratio, whatever, on presenting myself in a way and what that costs, and then paying for it so that I'm not going into debt. Might not be like making a ton of money, but like I won't, like I have never done a tour where I like pay my band out and I come home like 15 grand in the hole. Like I probably wouldn't do that. I'd like to do it, but I'm not brave enough to do it.
Sounds like you're smart enough not to do it.
Well,
we have had some people say that exact opposite. Like I've gone into debt, like a ton of debt, because it's just what I had to do while I was doing it. We just interviewed Trevor Hall, and that's basically what he said he did for years, was like put tons of money into these tours and everything he had to do.
He's a lot bigger than me too.
But he talked about how scary that was and how he was losing sleep over it, and that he was living for free at a monastery for years to offset it. I mean, it's amazing what we sacrifice for our vision as artists, and money can be such a silly, stressful part of the whole thing. But the difference is, of course, that you're still figuring out a way to make it work, right? And that's where Kickstarter, I think, is also found a really nice home, and Patreon, those type of places that has given us more direct to fans access. And the last thing, just to tie this back to in the Kickstarter, you started comparing what someone's contribution would reflect in the other ways that people consume art, right? Where you were comparing how many streams it took to donate for $1.
Math with Megan.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I did a very silly social media post about you could either give me this much dollars or stream my music this many times and it'll be the same. So if you want to support me, you can pick one. You can pick giving me $5 on my Kickstarter or streaming my music. I don't know what it was, like every day for 3 years or something.
Yeah.
Like if you want to support me, either's fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just commit to one of them. And it was to just show how ridiculous streaming income is, and that people's $5 really does actually go far.
Totally. I always say that, like, when I'm playing shows, it's like a few people are basically paying for everyone, right? Usually it's the whoever booked you who's paying for everyone, but it's also like you'll get, like, out of 100 people, 10 people will tip. But those 10 people just paid for everyone, right? And that's like always like that 80-20 rule, right? And that $20 that someone might throw in your tip jar is a serious amount of support, you know, compared to what streaming your music, like you said, every day is going to do for an artist. And I just love that we can find ways to more directly connect that reality to people's attention. Like you said, if you didn't ask for support, people wouldn't even know. It's like this education stuff is really important, that the mass public realizes that the industry doesn't support your streams to the artist, right?
Yeah. And it's uncomfortable to be waving the flag, to be the one to wave the flag on that stuff, because we don't want to sound desperate and needy. And, you know, there's some shame involved in not being able to like support yourself doing the thing that you know how to do. But I think there are a lot of ways to do it, you know, that are more than a Kickstarter and more you know, a little more subtle. And I feel like it's our responsibility as artists to continue to educate people in ways that are comfortable for us. For example, stop selling tickets for $10. Like ticket prices should not be anywhere, like minimum 15 for a singer-songwriter show, like $20.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I just was having this conversation with a board I'm on for a series, and they're like, well, one of them is $20 and one of them is $15, and should we unify it for $20? And it's like, yes. Like, teach the public that if they want to go out to music, it's $20.
Right.
People are willing to spend that much to go out to lunch. Like, we have to all together raise the economy of music together. Like, you know, a year ago or whatever, for the shows that I was booking, like they were $250, and I was like, we have to start giving everyone $300.
Yeah.
And can bulk at it, you know. It was like, but it was on me to advocate for musicians to say, inflation's real, you're a corporation, like bring the bottom line up. So, you know, I think, and doing that with Kickstarter, like starting your Kickstarter at $20,000.
Yeah.
When you launch a Kickstarter for $10,000, you tell your community and the like music audience at large, like, this doesn't cost that much, but it does cost a shitload of money to do this.
Right. And your time and talent is also very monetarily, it should be seen as high value. And we're also giving ourselves that value too by setting those numbers.
I think especially for shows where you do sell some of those low number ticket prices, and you're not weeding out your audience either. You want someone to come, and even if they don't know you, they're coming for an experience. They're paying a little bit more to know they're coming to see a show. And I think sometimes you set that bar a little bit too low. You get people that are just coming in to chat for a Friday night, and they're like, oh, I spent $5 or $10. No big deal. You know, so Sally, this is what I was doing this weekend. You know, when you just pulled out a stool to make sure the crowd sits down and you have a, you know, quiet number coming up next.
I also feel like sometimes I'm not like the best barometer on this because I'm so inside of it. But I will say that, like, if ever I go to a show, like, I don't make a decision on whether I'm going to a show on the ticket price. It could be $15 or $25. Like, I'm going because I'm either supporting my friend, I really want to see the band, trying to be like a community member, like I care about the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and again, it's not because I'm like rolling in cash. It's just like, my decision to go to a show is not about the $5 or $10 of ticket, whatever. I just assume it's going to be around $20 if I leave my house and go to a gig.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like, how many people who are going to go to your gig are like, if it was $15, I'd go, but it's 20, so I'm not. I don't think people think like that. And that extra $5 on the ticket makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
I love this conversation. I wish more people would talk about ticket pricing, and it's important for us to provide an experience to an audience that we're looking forward to showing up and doing our best and make people forget about whatever they want for the night or experience just some joy, something. And when you have to put a dollar amount on that, I think I'm with you. You're going because you want to go experience that. You're not looking at the dollar price. However, there are some markets that they're like, what's going on Friday night? Oh, I'll go over there. Oh, that's too much money because I don't know that person. I'll meet you at the bar next door. Well, I'd rather them meet me at the bar next door or someone else at the bar next door than come to the show and not have a great experience because there's a group of people that don't give a shit.
Let's talk a little bit about this release and the timeline for that.
Okay.
So you've released one song, Electricity, and what I really enjoyed about it on Spotify was I always forget what the name of this is, but that little screen video, that's a 5-second video that loops over and over. That was very high quality and very fun.
Thank you. You can see the full video on YouTube, Chris.
You are releasing this right before summer, is that correct? As basically getting into summer?
I'm releasing singles all summer, and then I'll release the record this fall.
Nice. And are you supporting it with a tour?
Big local show at the Bluebird, September 5th. Mark your calendars.
Doing it right now. And we're going to see your music on Grey's
We're in
Anatomy.
Madison.
Right. Yes. Grey's Anatomy. Any day now.
Has that show been canceled for like 5 years? I don't even know.
It's still running.
No.
No, and I feel like
Yes.
I personally think that it's still running because there's like the universe wants me to have a song on that show. And so as soon as my song gets on the show, they can cancel it. But I think they're waiting around for me.
For the finale. Your song's going to be.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about how you diversify, so many things going on because you do book as well. And I think that comes up a lot with some of our other artists that help out just other musicians, but also you were making, guitar straps for a while. You do a lot of different creative things. And if not just to make money, but it's creative and fun and bright colors that, I wanted to get my hands on them when you started making them. So I'd like to talk about that a little bit.
I'm stalling because I feel so spread thin all the time. And I don't know if the diversification is what has allowed me to not have to have like another day job, outside of music, or if I like picked a lane and really focused, if I could accomplish the same. Like I'm too inside of it to know.
Mm-hmm.
I do diversify myself, and I have felt like I have had to, and I am sort of grateful that I have the skill set and motivation and like organization to be able to do it. But I don't know if it's just a function of being a musician that's required, or if like I'm doing it badly. You know what I mean? I don't know how to answer that question well, because sometimes I wonder, like, if I just got brave enough to say, like, I'm only playing gigs that I want to promote, and I'm going to dump all my focus and energy into sync licensing, and I'm going to become a more of a sync Swiss Army knife and make those relationships and make those contacts and just like eat ramen for a year and just take a leap and trust that it'll all work out. Like I say yes to everything because I'm scared of debt. And I think sometimes being a little more brave about the leap of faith maybe allows you to not have to diversify. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know. So that's kind of a non-answer, but I think about that a lot, Yeah.
I think it's a great answer. Matt, what personal practices or habits have you found crucial for maintaining your health and creativity in such a demanding industry?
I have a lot. We could talk about it for a long time. I am someone who has dealt with a lot of health challenges in my life. And so I have been kind of forced to put some habits and practices in my life to stay healthy. And so I have a lot. I do a lot of things. It's kind of healthy living, and health things are like, they're my hobby. Like I love talking about it and researching it and learning about it. And it's how I spend my extra money is on body work and supplements and naturopaths and organic produce. And like, it's really, really, really important to me. So if you want to book that podcast, I can tell you all of my weird things that I do. And there are many. On the creativity front, I force myself into deadlines. I host a songwriting night once a month where you have to have a new song to come. It's like an accountability songwriting group. And it's as much for me as it is for the community because I'm hosting it. So I have to have a new song. And I have just come to learn about myself that if I don't force myself into creative deadlines, the creativity is not going to happen. And the creativity is what all of the business rests on, like I want to just like when people don't come to my songwriting group, not because they have something else to do, because they're like, I haven't written a song. I just want to shake them. I'm like, the success of your career is rested on your catalog. Like if you're not building a catalog, this is a moot conversation. Like there's no money to talk about. There's no like progress to talk about. Like you need a catalog to build. And so the only way that I build catalog is by forcing myself into deadline. So I have like co-write sessions in the calendar and I have this monthly night where I know at least I'm writing a song or two a month minimum because I always show up for my calendar obligations. So
It's like a mic drop.
How many friends have you had to shake?
I've never shaken anyone, but I want to. When people are like, I just haven't written a song, it's like, what are you doing? Write a song. I'm asking you to write a novel. It's 3 minutes. The chorus repeats 3 times. It's done. This is why I'm a bad teacher. This is why I'm not teaching it to you anymore. Like, what is wrong with you?
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Well, we don't want to take up your entire day, so we will schedule that second podcast to dive into the health stuff. I think that sounds like an awesome time. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. You know how much we both love you and love watching your career and listening to your music and watching how hard you work at all this. You're such an important part of the Denver community and the music community in general. So it's such an honor to have you on here today. Thank you so much.
Do I need to shake either one of you?
Yeah, I'll schedule that later.
You can shake me.
Love you guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's break this down a little bit. First of all, let's go back to the beginning and talk about how to be considered for a Grammy. I don't know why we never have talked about it. I mean, I guess because Grammys are so far-fetched for so many artists, right? They're not even on the radar, right? But it should be to the extent that if you're really trying to make it as an artist, the Grammys is sort of like that top achievement, right? It's like winning the championship, getting the big trophy. And so it's really important that you at least understand the general process and how it all functions as a unit, because you have to do a lot of things in order to get ready for it, namely having a great album or a great song. But above that, that just starts the campaign, which costs money and costs connections, right? And costs all that time and energy.
That's why her quote makes so much sense, to have those creative deadlines. Because if the creativity is not there, not only is the business not there, but the Grammy's not there.
Yeah. Well, she was very delicate, not to put down the process, but it's just like politics where it gets real ugly, and that reality is just unfortunate, but true.
I honestly was ignorant to the whole thing. That's the first time I've ever talked to anyone about it. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting to know about the process.
Well, and then we talked about tour planning. There's no wrong way to do that, but you learn quickly by doing, don't you? And knowing your routes and knowing your places and knowing your budget. And that was the other thing she really was focused on, was staying out of debt. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think she was feeling guilty that she hasn't taken a bigger risk and allowed that to occur. But the truth is, like, she's doing really well. And she's our hardest critic, so she wouldn't agree with us. But she's doing really well. She did play with the Colorado Symphony at Red Rocks and killed it. She's played with some amazing people, and she's really an incredible singer-songwriter. And all of that is because she's dedicated so much time and energy and professionalism to this craft. So staying out of debt is just another, in my opinion, another feather in that cap, because it's really hard to do that. And she shows that it's possible.
You can tell she felt bad when she was talking about how much she would want to play with her band even more, but saying that she had to make sure she can take care of that expense. So that's where I felt like she felt bad. She's like, I wish I could do it more, but I have to do X, Y, and Z to get to that.
I really enjoy when people simplify things. And the way that she simplified the math with Megan section, it's like you're going to school. It's like a little bit of education. And I think that was, something that kind of came up a couple times in this interview about people don't know how little revenue comes from streaming. People don't realize how that has changed the industry so massively, and how it caused not only a small way to make money, like basically like radio, but it also completely shut down the sales end of things. So the actual sales of songs, the sales of albums. That education is really important, because people then will realize, oh, giving $5 to your campaign is like what? It's like listening to your song 3 times a day for an entire 2 years. Like, it's a shocking reality for people. And it's really important that we gently educate them in order for them to realize that just a little support by giving you that money during your campaign, during your ask, is going to make an enormous difference.
It helps with the incentive of getting a full album from the artist that you like as well. I mean, when streaming is so effective by putting out one at a time to get that played more and more than 10, 11 songs, and then you're just shooting blanks four out of the 6.
It also translates right into ticket prices too, because people don't realize, like she said, most people won't make a decision based on the ticket price, whether they're going to come see you play or not, really, especially if it's a $5 difference, right? I mean, I just, bought tickets for Goose on Saturday. That's, those are like $120 tickets. I wasn't really thinking about ticket price. I just wanted to have a good seat so I could enjoy myself. You know what I mean? I'm willing to spend the money to experience it the way that I want to experience it, right? And truthfully, this is more on the end of the artist. This is more of our issue, right? Just sort of like a money mindset kind of thing. Like, if I ask for 20 instead of $15, people aren't going to come, right? It's going to be harder to sell. And now I will say that it's true within the college community. I see them all being very broke, but their mindsets are still stuck in the idea that if I spend $20, I'm more broke. But the truth is, that's not how this works, right? You support them, they're going to come support you in the music industry. That, musicians will all balance out when it comes to that effort. But it's really important that you don't set that limitation on your audience and expect them not to support you because of charging the appropriate amount. Seems scary.
And well said.
Speaking of great shows to go see and see how this is all done really well, if you're in the Denver area, September 5th, Megan is playing at the Bluebird for her CD release, her album release show, and it's really 100% going to sell out, because she will promote that thing just like she put the energy into her Kickstarter, and you will see how it's done the right way.
I liked how she talked about diversifying her income and saying that instead of thinking that way, she focuses on what she does best. The idea of diversifying probably would bring her down in a way. It'd be too much. And I think I forget that sometimes. I probably spread myself too thin in doing the things that I do. And it made a lot of sense to me about focus.
Yeah, it's almost like you start with the whole Swiss Army knife, like her analogy, and then you realize which of those knives or which of those tools you use the most, and that's really where you should focus as you get better at all this. But I do think it's really important to try it all at the beginning. You're only going to figure out more that you didn't realize. So it's a natural progression in my mind that I think everyone should go through. And yes, we do still have a tendency to run ourselves too thin with trying to do too much. I would have had 6 shows this week if I hadn't canceled 2 of them. I had to, because of my own realization that if I had done that, I wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't have survived the week, let alone the month. And, that's a part of sustainability in my mind. So I think I'm getting better at recognizing ahead of time when I'm pushing myself too hard.
And you learn that by doing it because you've done that before many times, six
Right.
shows in 1 week.
Right.
To the point where you know what you're like on the end of that.
Yes.
No good for anybody, yourself, your family, your friends, or the following show.
Yeah. Right. Well, and that's where the fear of debt can be too strong, right? Because we can be so afraid of not having enough. That fear, that scarcity mindset can cause us to run too thin, to do too much. Whereas a healthy mindset would be that we stay out of debt, but also we balance all those other pillars that we talked about in episode 100, that we're able to sustain ourselves in a way that's making us happy, and therefore we give more energy to the right things. And the universe should give it back to you, right? It should work out better. I mean, I do think that when I'm in my zone, that's kind of how I just kind of sum that up. When I'm doing those things right, I make more money and I have more energy. Both are working, right? And so out of balance is sort of just running yourself too thin can be a sign that you aren't in balance, right? And that not being in balance is actually costing you money, or it will cost you money. And one of those ways that you'll cost you money is your health, right? And we brushed on that with her, and we both have had conversations with her about this, and everybody in the music industry that's doing this long enough, this is an important part. And that's why we said, well, let's just save this for another episode, because it needs to be examined further. And artists, we have this stigma that we're supposed to party hard, and that this is supposed to be like this constant party of a job. And as you get older, you're like, well, the partying gets a little exhausting, actually. That's not really as fun as it used to be. No judgment on anybody that's still doing that. It's you do what you want to do, but the truth is sustainability is you can't do it without being healthy.
Also learn that the hard way.
Yeah, that's right. And I think a lot of us do. We learn a lot of these things the hard way. We learned a lot about our finances the hard way. And that's why we're here trying to tell everybody else, hey, wait, slow down. That's not, first of all, don't give up, but also realize that you can avoid learning things the hard way. We all know this. I mean, there's probably things that we didn't learn the hard way because of people helping us. You just can't think of it because you didn't learn the hard way. So it's just stuff that maybe you're taking for granted that you didn't learn it the hard way.
And the beauty of you and I getting together and doing this so much, I've learned just so much from episode 1 to 100 that I never even talking about the Grammys last week, things about finance and health and touring and making an album and how to promote it, stuff that I've done only my way in the past and wish I would have done it differently, because we've had so many great guests teach us so many great things.
Totally. Yeah. And that sense of community also translates into her conversation about creating the songwriter group that she has. And you've gone to it, right? I've gone to it, and it's so valuable. I want to go back now that we've had this conversation, because it's been a while since I've attended anything. That idea that you must write, so you have to shake yourself. She said it so eloquently, and I'm not right now, but that you have to find someone else that will shake you or do whatever it takes to get you to keep producing results in your creativity, because that's how it works. It is required that you force it sometimes. So for our action step this week is for all the songwriters that listen to start or join a monthly songwriting group in your area to start showing up for yourself and your goals. What a great way just to get together with your friends, put it on the calendar once a month. Come on, we can all do this no matter how busy we are, and make yourself show up with a new song. Well, so simple, right? And as Megan said, you're not writing a book. You're not writing a novel. Quit treating it that way, right? It's just a couple verses and a repeating chorus. So great. So great. We know that your time is valuable. We appreciate you spending this time with us and being a part of this community. It's our hope that you feel that sense of community here at Musicians Tip Jar, that you help spread the word, and we can make us all stronger. If you'd like to get a hold of us, what's the best way to do that?
Send us an email at musicianstipjar@gmail.com, or check out the website musicianstipjar.com, where you can also check out the resources and discounts we have for all you special listeners.
And if you find this information useful, please take that moment, rate and subscribe to the podcast. Like us if you're watching us on YouTube so that we can help keep you up on the finance side of your music business. As always, thank you for joining us. Remember, there is already enough for everyone. You just need to know how to get it. Until next time, on behalf of Dave Tamkin and myself, Chris Webb, stay happy, healthy, and wealthy. Your art will show up for you if you show up for yourself. This is Musician's Tip Jar.
Oh Lord, I could use somebody.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, business, or financial professional for individualized advice. Individual results are not guaranteed, and all discussed strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The hosts are operating on behalf of Musician's Tip Jar LLC exclusively.
Could use a little help, yeah. Could use some help.